So as we said in the last video, we've got all our string base on and we've got our felt. We just need to apply our piece of leather that we've already cut out. What we do need to do first and foremost is we actually need to cut out the eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that on just there like that. And to start with, just make sure that it's lined up really well. And then to start with, I'm just going to place a stiletto in the eye. So this is my stiletto. I'm just going to poke it in just there like that. Okay, I'm going to poke it in just there like that. It doesn't matter that it's through the fabric. Okay. Okay, so what we need to do is we just need to take that off, work out where our eyes are, take it off and just trim out a little circle. So this will be a little tricky. So it's a little lozenge shape that we want to do. Okay. Once you've got those first few cuts, you can then start to just cut in one go, carefully around with your scissors until you get back up to that little top bit there. Okay, let's have a little look at that. Trim that bit off there, like that, and trim that bit off there, like that. So that's one eye. Okay, and then we need to do the next eye. So again, just coming round with our scissors, and then we can start to go around more carefully. Now this eye is looking to be slightly bigger than the other one, and if that is the case, can you see the difference in the size? So if that is the case, then we need to just trim out a little bit more here. So we're just going to come down here and we're just going to trim out, try and keep it in one fell swoop. Okay, there we go. There's our ghoulish eyes. Get rid of that little bit of leather. Okay, so once you've got that on, what you do need to make sure you've got is a leather needle. So there's two different types of needles. There's normal needles and then there's a leather needle. The way you actually tell the difference between a leather needle, because you'll have loads and loads of needles and there's not much difference in size between these two needles, and you'll have plenty of needles that look this sort of size in your needle case. So if you've got an ordinary needle and you flick it like this, roll it between your fingers, the light will stay along the line. However, if you do the same thing with a leather needle, you can see the light flicks on the blade, and that's because it's a honed triangular blade which is made to slice into the leather. So we're just going to thread that up now. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to start on this side of the leather, make sure that it's going to go right up to the top there. So right on the edge of that felt. Okay, so we're going to come up on the edge of the leather and we're going to stitch right into the leather there, very, very close to the edge of that leather. So we're coming up on the edge of the leather and we're going down into the leather like that, and your stitches need to be about 2 to 3 millimeters apart, okay, which is about 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so I'm coming up. If you lift that up, you can see where I've actually stitched with on the felt, so you can see those stitches there, and that's the very edge that I'm stitching onto now. It's really quite important to make sure you get it very, very close to that edge there, and you'll see why. later when we start stitching into the leather. Okay, so we're just going to come up the edge of the leather and down into the leather like that. And then we're going to go all the way around the top part of our ghost head. Okay. So our stitches are really quite small, and you can see that with using this particular needle as opposed to a round ordinary embroidery or crewel or quilting needle, which are just a circular blade, it's really slicing into that leather. It makes it much easier to stitch down. With an ordinary needle, the actual needle pushes into the leather as opposed to slices into the leather, and it produces a lot more resistance when you're stitching it. Okay, so we're coming round our head now, making sure that we cover that area just nicely there. Okay. Now just be very careful, because if you do go too close to the edge of your leather there, then you may end up perforating it. So you've got to come in enough so that it's catching the leather down, but not too far to the edge, not too close to the edge that it actually perforates it, and therefore it doesn't then hold the leather down to the fabric. But also you don't want to go too far in that it ends up looking more like a pasty edge than nice stitching into that leather there. Okay, so we're just coming around the top of our head now, and then we'll be going on to our other side of the ghost. Okay, so very close, and it's just nicely rounding against that felt. Okay, so I'm just going to check where my felt is now. Okay, so can you see there on this side, if I lift that up, it's way away from the edge. So what we want to do is we want to bring that closer to the edge there. So we're going to bring it down and just form it just nicely against there. So I'm going to hold that, because you can see it lifting now there, and there is a reason that we need to do that, so that when we're stitching it into the leather later, we've got all that string underneath. It gives an allowance for where that string is, and it forms nicely over those pieces of string that we've already stitched down onto our felt. Okay, so we're just coming down this side now. Let's pull that little bit of a little strand of thread there that I don't know where that came from. So nice little stitches in. And if your stitch was too far away, so say I came up there with my stitch, then I would be able to see that line of thread. So it's really quite important to make sure that you're right on that edge of your leather, so that your stitches are in line with the leather just here, and not, you can just see a little bit that one's stuck out. So I'd gone slightly too far out with my stitch on that. So what you don't want is those all the way around and being able to see all those little stitches, because that would look really messy. Okay. So we're nearly at our edge now on the side of our ghost. Okay. Again, just being really, really careful that your stitches are in enough, not too far out. Okay, so that it just lies nicely, those stitches lie really, really nicely on our leather. Okay, so we've got about 4 or 5 more stitches to go in there, and I think we'll just have enough thread to do that. Not that it particularly matters because we want to carry on round anyway, but I'll have to finish off this thread and start a new thread. Okay. Two more stitches and then we can start doing our inner bits. Okay, there we go. One more stitch now. I'm going to just finish this thread off and get a new thread there. Do a little couple of stay stitches underneath there. Because I'm working on the surface, it's easier to just do a couple of stay stitches into the top of the material. It's much, much harder to actually be turning my frame over at the moment. Okay, so obviously we've drawn our little areas on here and we know where our string is underneath there. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to actually fold that down over the edge there, and what we'll do first and foremost, just to make sure that we can hold that in place, is to do some big stitches just like that as stay stitches. Okay, and that will then hold our thread in place. So this one here, this is going to come along here and it's going to hold down on that side, and that actually tweaked a little bit into a curve to create that ruffle of the material. So I'm just going to stitch that down there like that, and then I'm also going to put another stitch just on the very edge of that like that and stitch that down just there. Okay, and that pulls it into there like that. Okay, and then we've got our other side just here. So again, I'm going to come up. You can see where my needle is poking through. So don't poke all the way through until you know you're in the right place. Then you can go down like that, and then again, just there like that. And that's coming down on that side, just there. Okay, so this is creating the swathes of our material. So again, this is the side that we need. So we're going to just make sure that we've got our two areas there. So we've got our one piece just here. So we've got this piece that's coming like that, and we've got this piece that's coming like that. So what you need to make sure is that you allow enough and don't lose your definition. So I'm going to come up here like this with our thread. Okay, just like that, and that's going to come up there like that and form on the side of our ghost. Okay, and that creates that rounded edge like that, can you see? And then we're going to do the same just here, right on the edge of this piece, and then we get that lifting and ruffles in the material, can you see? So we just need to check where that goes down, and it goes down just about there. It's coming just there like that, you see. Okay, so then we're going to just stitch right there, and now we've got this nice little area here that's folding over and up to this area. So you've got a nice little ridge there, you've got a nice little ridge there, you've got this double ridge here, and then you've got this ridge here, and that is our ghost, our leather stitched on We just need to do the very edges now. So I'm just going to speed that up. So all you're going to do for the edges is you're just going to do exactly the same as what you just did on the top edge, and you're just going to stitch into it just like that. Okay, so you're going to go round the bottom now, and you're just going to restitch into those, into that edge, along that edge. Okay. There we have it. So we've stitched all the way around the head first, and we've done our big stitches in to create those ruched areas as though it's a sheet over our like ghosty person or a real ghost. And then we've got our stitching all the way around the edge. Now I've left a little bit of a gap just there, and you'll see why that is later when we do the rest of the stitching.